Hello, my friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. I hope you guys are doing well tonight. Thank you guys for joining us again.
Super happy to see everybody in the chat. Everybody's having fun. Hi.
Having fun's good, most definitely. I see Dr. Enoch Metatron's in the house, Bill's in the house, Jesse, Caving 101, William, Parparisling, Bethany, Wildflower, Winston, PJ. It's good to see you guys.
It is, and we got a lot of information tonight. More updates as the plot thickens and thickens.
Maybe more questions than answers.
Yeah, definitely. Gonna have more questions.
You know, there's things that we could say that, and again, I think it's things that almost all of us will agree on. I think we could all agree that this virus does not feel natural, that it is manufactured. And, all the scientists that have been looking at it and studying it, that's really the conclusion that they're coming to.
Yeah, everybody's kind of coming to the same conclusion over and over and over. So, it's interesting to watch this unfold and scary at the same time.
Yeah, it's this thing is being so suppressed. You almost have to ask yourself, why haven't they not declared this a global pandemic yet? Because there's cases all over the place, and the numbers are not budging in some areas, and it's getting to be ridiculous. LPS Samantha says, I still have no clue exactly what's going on. I don't think anyone does. I think, we did watch the first part of The Stand last night, the old one, guys. So if you guys remember, what's the name of that actor? He played in Westworld 2.
I don't know his name, but it was the old guy, the bald guy.
Yeah. So, some people know. There's some people in the militaries and that know certain powers that be, that know exactly what's going on. And, they have the true logarithms and the true numbers, perhaps, or close to it. As far as the public, no, we're, of course, kept in the dark. Mm-hmm. Not Yul Brenner. No, I forget what his name is now. We'll have to look this up. Okay. He's played in a ton of stuff, and he's in the new Westworld series. He plays the Man in Black. There's so much going on as far as cover-ups and all, and part of the bigger picture is, did China do this to themselves? Because this is definitely a bioweapon. That we could all agree on, I think. It's a bioweapon. So did China do it to themselves, to their citizens? And when we saw the whole Iranian connection, that sent bells ringing in my head, and Cindy too. She felt there was something really odd there.
Yeah, there was something really odd, almost like they have inside information. And yeah.
Ed Harris, you got it. Thank you, Elizabeth. Ed Harris. Yep. So Ed Harris in The Stand plays, somebody that knows what happened, and then he couldn't handle the truth, ultimately in that movie. Couldn't handle the guilt, I guess, and I think there will be people like that, that can't handle the guilt, of knowing what's going on. So the big picture here is you see South Korea's city deserted after coronavirus super spreads through a church. So residents of South Korea's Daegu city urged to stay in. Spike in South Korean infections linked to a church. China changes methodology for counting cases yet again. And U.S. stocks fall. We know all the impact. I mean, the stocks haven't fallen like they're going to, I would think, in the future. But you see this. So, this is a city of 2.5 million, and you got deserted shopping malls and cinemas now. And so this is outside of China. We're starting to see stuff on a major level outside of China now. So that's a big shift. And when we look over here, South Korea and Vietnam are asking millions of people to stay home to avoid coronavirus as more people get infected and die outside of China. So South Korea, as we're talking about, add Vietnam to the mix. You have towns and cities basically semi-quarantined, you could say now. Ghost towns, where commerce, everything is shutting down. So that end of this is now starting to go outside of China. And over here we see a woman in Canada test positive for coronavirus after traveling to Iran. There was only 2 cases in Iran. And then, this lady went to Iran. She didn't go to China, as you see the map here. There's Iran, right? China, you can't even see it on this map because it's covered in cases. So that sounds really curious to me there.
With that kind of luck, she should get a lotto ticket.
Yeah, right? A German national suspected for coronavirus has been taken out of a crowded subway station in southern Tehran, is now in quarantine. He reportedly kept spitting on the ground before people called an ambulance. And this is apparently a photo of the German guy who was trying to escape but was caught and quarantined. And this is in Tehran, Iran. So trying to put some pieces together. And we see Max over here is saying an estimated 2,000 coronavirus cases in Iran. And he is quoting Hector Torres, who was on top of this whole thing last night as well. Saying that, based on my sources and what I've gathered, there are about 2,000 cases in Iran. So that'll jump Iran right up behind China in number of cases. So, I gotta think that might be a puzzle piece for what's really going on here. And what I've kind of suspected the whole time, is this is a part of something much bigger. And that's why I started with this video this morning, as I hope you guys will go check it out. Prophetic Collision Course, Biblical Islamic Hopi, and talking about Erdogan's wishes of a new caliphate and revived Ottoman Empire. And we're seeing Turkey and Russia starting to square off militarily a little bit. Really, I think there's something much bigger going on here. Much, much, much bigger than, even the virus itself. I think the virus is part of something that's multifaceted, just like with what is always sprayed over our heads. There's more than one program going on there. I think there's more than one program going on here as well.
Yeah, there's definitely an uptick in energy that doesn't look good. I mean, as far as frustrations go, fighting breakdown of like societies, that this could go on for a good year.
So Steve says, why Iran? Well, Iran and China are definitely at odds with the U.S., wouldn't you say? I mean, obviously, the United States has been in an economic war, a trade war with China, and there are officials in both the Chinese military and the U.S. military that say conflict is inevitable. And then, as we know, Iran struck U.S. forces, and U.S. has been kind of just dying for years to take Iran out and turn it back into a satellite or a puppet country. So that's what hits me. If the next biggest outbreak is in Iran, then boy, you gotta wonder, is this a covert operation going on here? Covert military operation.
Yeah, there's a lot of covert stuff going on, and it's just really hard to point the finger at one certain thing and say, well, this is for certain. Like Michael pointed out in the beginning, we're certain that it's kind of screwed up. What's this?
Oh, just like what Samantha says here, see?
Oh, two of our biggest enemies, if you think about it. Right, exactly. Very, very good point.
Yeah, and here's another great comment. This is by Steve Hall. At odds with the bankers, right, and the parasites. Yeah. Well, they've wanted to shift from what we hear, and I haven't looked up Benjamin Fulford's, his blog for this week. Maybe we could do that as we blast through some of this stuff. He's again one that gives sometimes pretty good insight. Other times it feels like it might be insight with a little bit of a agenda as well. So it's how else to do such a devastating economic covert strike on an opponent. Now I don't buy that. There's just let's look at the numbers. Let's see here. Let me first jump over to where are we? I think right there. Yeah. These numbers didn't budge much from yesterday, which is really curious, because we don't believe them. 76,214. They're showing 18,404 recovered, although there's more and more evidence all the time that says when you're recovered, it's almost like you're either a Lyme's patient, where Lyme's never gets out of your system, or almost like you have HIV, where it never really leaves your system either. And, what a better weapon than that to keep somebody in basically a situation where if they're not in tip-top shape, taking care of themselves, to their very highest degree, they're going to be very susceptible to just about anything and everything. So, that's part of the design on this nasty thing that, why isn't that against the Geneva Convention? Why don't, how are countries allowed to make these type of bioweapons? It just, boggles the mind when we see it. So you see the 634 others that I'm guessing is mostly cruise ships. And then we see 104 South Korea, 94 Japan, 84 Singapore, 68 Hong Kong, dropping off from there. Only 15 still is what they're showing in the U.S. So we see those blobs and the little red dots in the U.S., which, this cannot be accurate. There's no way in the world this could be accurate. And then looking at Europe, little red blobs, one up there in Finland, Sweden, UK, Brussels and Germany, Amsterdam and France. I just don't buy it, guys. I just don't buy it. And then we have all the cases of flu going on. The flu is rampant, and I got to get a list together, all the people that are sick on the EA family here. There's so many people that need prayers. Jessica, one of our family members there, and I really can't keep up with everybody that's telling me they're sick right now.
Sniffles. Yeah, I got a cold, sniffles, and it went around the family, but everybody's gotten sick since gotten better, which is a really, really good thing.
So, how many of these, as we see all these school districts, there's been a ton of them. And, this one right here is the Elko School District closed because of the flu outbreak. I did a video just on that. And over here we're seeing 11 of 13 patients in Omaha test positive for coronavirus. They're bringing people into Omaha that were on cruise ships. And just before we jump into that other article, Arkansas flu deaths rise by 10 in a week. The flu is rampant. Multiple East Feliciana schools closed over flu outbreak as well. And so we see here confusion mounts over China's counting methods as coronavirus numbers swing wildly. Yeah, it's complete crap and complete BS what they're giving us with these numbers. And out of political, here we see problems with CDC coronavirus test delay, expand U.S. Screening. The delay could impede the U.S. government's ability to detect scattered cases before they snowball into larger outbreaks. And it's just crazy what we're seeing. Only 3 of the more than 100 public health labs across the country have verified the CDC test for use. According to the Association of Public Health Laboratories, there is really something fishy going on here. I don't even think you have to be a conspiracy theorist to even see that there's something super fishy going on here. How slow the WHO has moved. It's not even officially a pandemic yet, and yet we got cases all over the place. And we think that there's probably a tremendous number of cases that are not being counted. U.S. hospitals are now preparing for a potential coronavirus pandemic. So a CDC official warns hospitals prepare ahead in case of the announcement of a COVID-19 pandemic. Get ready, why has it not come yet? And here we see South Korean soldier tests positive for coronavirus. China reports spike in cases outside Wuhan and 118 new deaths. And as you saw here, Iran confirms 5 cases, but we suspect there's thousands. Yeah, this is such a tangled mess. And school system cancels classes due to flu and strep throat. Washington County. It's been a brutal season, most definitely. And here's an article out of Zero Hedge. The rate of Diamond Princess, that's a cruise ship, infections suggests that worldwide infections are way higher, way higher than official reports. The official reports are bunk, complete bunk. And so, and there's been so many people putting together models, and many of you guys have sent me a ton of links. And we try to see what we can see. It's impossible to watch them all. But what's happening is people are running the numbers and they're just realizing this is a load of crap.
It is. Yeah, there's a lot of things that are a load of crap with this, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist, like Michael said, to take a quick glance at this and say, no, this story is really way off.
Yeah, it's completely far off. So how far off are these numbers? Well, I mean, that's the thing. We really don't know. And this is out of Natural News, which are 2 words get you in trouble on this venue. COVID-19 coronavirus found to contain unique gain-of-function property for efficient spreading in the human population. This thing was completely manufactured, and there's a reason why it's, basically a virus on steroids, because it literally is. I mean, this thing has, it's again, 1.8 was the RO for Spanish flu, and now everybody I see, they're talking 7 or 8. I mean, massively high numbers that just boggle the mind.
Right. And, I believe it was, I think it was Raven. Someone was telling us to, when you wash your hands, a full 2 minutes if you've been out and about at the store, because I know a lot of us still need to go to work. We still have to pop in and out of the store. Wash your hands. That's, and I know people who generally aren't too concerned about viruses that are now wearing gloves at work and stuff. So it's good to see people around me starting to wake up, and we're teaching the kids, wash your hands 2 full minutes. So we still have time to raise our vibration and prepare, get your immune system prepped.
Okay, and so RO just means it's like the rate of infection. So for every 1 person with the Spanish flu, they infected 1.8 other people. And this is apparently going at somewhere between a 6 and an 8. So every person is infecting 6 to 8 other people. And so, this thing has been constructed to do that, to be more easily transmissible than anything we've really seen before. It just blows the mind how they did this. This is, this is like Captain Trips,
Yeah.
If you guys know what I mean, going back to quote The Stand, it's just obviously this thing is constructed. And we do have to most definitely keep ourselves in tip-top shape. And so, let's see, 741 hertz solfeggio for viruses, Chadesh culture, very cool. That, yeah, vibration, is very, very powerful. And, okay, Barbara says they knew about this since 2015 and they sold it to China. Well, you saw that, well, maybe you didn't. There was an article going out that, really couldn't be verified, but supposedly from a Chinese general, and saying that whole thing, and saying that, the apparent illusion of these countries not getting along is really an illusion, which I do think there's controllers at the top that maneuver all the chess pieces. But they seem to enjoy having wars, and they seem to enjoy the profits, from these wars and the misery and suffering that they cause. So, yeah, I don't doubt it at all. This thing is most definitely manufactured. So there's twists to this. There's definitely twists. And so it's just so obvious that this has been sent out into the population on purpose. I think on purpose. I don't think this is a whoopsie.
Exactly. No, it seems so deliberate. It looks so deliberate. Their behavior is like it's deliberate. If it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it is what it is. So our job is to get prepared on our side and take responsibility for our own selves. Get prepped where you're at. Buy bags of rice, beans, and get cozy. Just take a lot of precaution because that's what we're doing.
And here you see Stop the Spread. Thousands in the U.S., and we touched on this yesterday, are in voluntary quarantine. Like, we didn't really know the numbers before this. Now they're just leaking us these numbers and saying, oh, by the way, there's, 5,400 over in California on quarantine, and so many more up in Washington State, and so many more in New York. And, then Florida just says, well, it's, we can't let you know anything because of patients' rights. So this is just giving everything an opportunity to, situate and get rooted more. And unfortunately, there's a ton of people that don't have a clue of what's going on and are still just walking around these cities of millions, not taking any precautions, inhaling deep as somebody else coughs, and not washing their hands, and not, using, germicide disinfectants. You got to take precautions. We really do. So you got about 575 people in New York classified medium risk, according to NBC. By contrast, 27 people are under self-quarantine in Iowa, 10 in North Dakota. California, actually about 7,000. So, very interesting to see these numbers. There again, 7,000 in California. If the RO is, at 8, that's a lot of potential spread. And I saw some people, and we watched the video of that couple with their little daughter come over from China. And, they went through all the lines and stuff without wearing masks when they got here. They jumped in an Uber, and didn't have a mask on. And then they were, later on, the next couple days later, they were self-quarantining in a Airbnb. But meanwhile, they came in contact with God knows how many people, So you just don't know really what the numbers are. And we may never. And so then we have this, which we've talked about before, just bringing up some of the things of the past. Again, this Harvard professor was among 3 charged with lying about Chinese government ties. And so, and, again, this is a guy that was paid by China. And the depth of the conspiracies could be so deep here when we look at it. You know, this was a Dr. Lieber. His research group at Harvard had received over $15 million in funding from the National Institute of Health and the Department of Defense, which requires disclosing foreign financial conflicts of interest. The complaint alleges that Lieber had lied about his affiliation with the Wuhan, oh, isn't that interesting, right? University of Technology in China, and a contract he had with Chinese talent recruitment plan to attract high-level scientists to the country. He was being paid $50,000 a month by the Chinese university and given $1.5 million to establish a nanoscience research lab at the Wuhan University. Nanoscience, nanotech, we were talking about that as well. And so CNN has reached out to an attorney for Lieber in a statement that Harvard called the charges extremely serious. So, you know, there's definitely enough finger pointing we can do, that's for sure. And this is Dr. Eric Feigl-Ding, and he says, I missed this somehow. An even bigger prison outbreak of 207 cases, including prison guards up in Shandong province, far from Hubei. 2 prison epidemics suddenly. And Florida Maquis had talked about what would happen in that type of situation over here in the U.S. You know, would they let people out of the prisons, or would they just let them rot in prison? You know, that's a big question. If it's China, they're going to probably rot in the prison. So here we see some fish acting really strangely. So, and this is in China. Not sure what that's all about. Though it is curious how this virus, with some people, it's like they get epileptic seizures as well. And so here you go. Soy sauce and rice. No meat, no veggies, no nothing, no going out. That's what you got, you know, soy sauce and rice. And although this little guy puts a smile on if we watched it. And this lady had a mask. And again, the question is, and she doesn't look sick, why are they doing this to her? You know, yanking her down. Again, I mean, she was just riding along. And again, it takes, you know, half a dozen or more guys. Is it really just rounding up people that have been part of the protesters? So, now, this is not in China, this is in Hong Kong. And yeah, it's a pretty bad looking faceplant. Mm-hmm. So, what we had seen in China, now we could say, okay, we're starting to see it in other places.
Yeah, this looks pretty bad here. I mean, it looks like he just totally fell flat on his face. Usually people would put their arms out or something. If you're even remotely awake, you're going to put your arms out in front of you. But this guy didn't. He just dropped like a rock.
Yeah, which says to me, biowarfare. I mean, how could you be good enough to, you know, go out in public and do a little shopping, and then all of a sudden, boom.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with that. You know, something there does not add up.
No, it doesn't. And this is just going on and on and on. And really what we got to do right now is just keep being cautious, keep preparing.
So does that lend credence to all the other ones that we saw in China? I would think it does.
Yeah, I do. I believe it does. It helps it when things start to come together and make sense in a way. Like when this first came out, it was really confusing because there's so many different psyops, so many lies. Everything had to be weighed carefully.
And so here we see, this is in Henan, a man drives through the gate of the police station in protest, just plows right through. That's part of the question we were saying, you know, at what point do people just get tired of being beaten on and the system? And so it might be starting to happen in China now. And here you see the resumption of work in Ningbo is imminent and is now spreading. The entire community was taken away overnight. Okay, and so this is a little bit of picking on the wrong lady here. So, yeah, he's not as confrontational as we've seen with some of the other ones.
No, this is one of my favorite ones because it's finally, somebody stands up against these guys. And I wonder, who is she? Because it didn't seem to matter with the other ones who they were. They just all attacked that one person. I'm wondering what's her status. Look at that. That's great. That's great. We could teach her to do better kicks, though. But she's doing good.
Yeah, this is all interesting to watch. Okay, so as Dr. Eric says, it's so frustrating with the different case numbers announced by provincial government and by China's central government. So hard to track and tricky to graph anything to. He's being nice because he's not, he's not coming right out and saying that they're lying, but, that's the implication here, right? Hubei announced 411, and then China for Hubei says 631. And what is it? And here's what we were just talking about too. So the COVID-19 pneumonia might turn into a chronic disease, and exist in the world just like influenza. Chinese experts warn, saying the virus could attack multiple organs, not just the lungs. And part of what we do see is that it can really affect the kidneys and in fact take them out. So, as we see here again, problems with CDC, coronavirus test delay, and expanded screening. They're not even screening that many people. They're not even testing that many people. All the people that have died from the flu this year in the U.S., which it's been a bad season, we don't know what percentage of them truly have this new COVID-19 virus. And here on Disclosed TV, we see South Korea reports a third soldier infected with it, an Air Force officer. And here we have a 38-year-old man in Italy that's hospitalized with the coronavirus as well.
Yeah, so this is getting crazy. Now people who are in uniform dressed to deal with this stuff are getting sick.
And so, the other thought is, I don't know the official number, but I know that the U.S. has, I think, tens of thousands of soldiers in South Korea. I want to say probably somewhere between maybe 40 and 50,000, something like that. So think about all the soldiers that are over there, and then maybe you'll get rotated out and come home. It's kind of inevitable with the way that this thing spreads. So, is this going to be something that's now permanently around? That's the big question. And in some cases with some people, that they're permanently infected. And then we hear that some people are permanent, well, let's say they're super spreaders. So what does all that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean? What does that mean for us? What's our future here? What do we do? What are we looking at? So many questions.
Yeah, tons and tons of questions going on. And here we see a Radal couple test positive for COVID-19, and this is out of Georgia. And here's a PDF. We have a Humboldt County case, first case of COVID-19 confirmed in Humboldt County in California. And then we have a genetic engineering company saying that they have created a coronavirus vaccine. Houston-based Graphics Inc. operates a lab in Aurora, Colorado. And they said that it has a vaccine aimed at the virus. And so we'll see how soon this thing could go to testing and then be released out into the public if that's its ultimate destiny. We'll see. We hear all these different things. We hear from official sources like 18 months or something, 12 to 18 months. But then there's some companies out there that say we could do it in so-and-so. So are they just obviously trying to make a grab for billions of dollars in potential profits.
Yeah, and I wouldn't go for that in a million years, not at all, because I think the end game is control and pushing this crap.
And so, that Iranian lady that recently returned from Iran would be the sixth presumptive case of COVID-19 in British Columbia. And this is what we were talking about. So ACE2 expression in kidney and testes may cause kidney and testes damage. And, it's interesting to hear of all the people that have been feeling weird things between, kidney and lower back pain caused by the kidneys. And then there's actually been a lot of people talking about pain in their testes as well. So you got to wonder, how long has this thing really been out there, and how many people really are affected by this? It's a question that we don't have the answers for, and those that perhaps do are not telling us, and they probably won't.
No, they're not going to tell us. They're going to tell us as little as possible, and they're going to keep doing this. And that's why it's great to get on the channel and talk about things that we can do to help ourselves, because I could imagine this has got to make a lot of us feel, oh, thank you, Tom Pettit. Thank you guys for your work. Thank you for your support. Thank you, all of you guys, for your support. It's super awesome.
Thank you so much, Tom. Definitely, we appreciate it. And you do rock, as White Porcelain says as well. Wow. So, yeah, Wade's idea is talking about the church. A woman has flown in Dallas church, dies on the spot. There's something just really wrong about this thing. Why, are some people going a kind of a typical flu type of route with it, and other people seeming to have like it's a nerve agent?
Yeah, so it makes me wonder, like, if it has to do with your chemical makeup. If this was cut and pasted together and tailored for certain things, maybe if you have this amount of this DNA, then it goes this route, and that amount of that DNA goes that route. It could be such a huge number of different things.
Yeah, and Raven's talking about it. Maybe there is more than one thing being released at the same time as well. So Raven says coronavirus is several types. Swine flu vaccine is coronavirus vaccine. Just cause one is patented, doesn't fit this key necessarily. This is kind of like a Frankenstein monster virus that they put together. And, of course, we had the outbreak of swine flu and pig Ebola, wiping out, anywhere from 25 to 50% of the world's pigs. It's crazy, but there's so many die-offs going on right now. It's just crazy what we're seeing here.
It is. And Raven says mutations, huge issue as time passes. I could imagine, I'd love at some point to get Raven back on, because he's such a wealth of information as far as what we can do for ourselves, what we can and can't do, and explaining what this means.
Deep State says the Nipah virus too, and Deep State has been talking to me and about the more weaponized aspects of this, because that really is this. And Deep State is former military as well, so he's been in there. It's definitely weaponized. I just saw Arvalon's 9.0 quake on Kamchatka.
That's huge.
Downgraded to 6.0. I have to check into that one. I didn't see anything big.
Yeah, that's like really big, and they downgraded it to a 6. That sounds about right.
Yeah, I did see Dutch was on today. First time I had anything notified from him on YouTube in forever. But so this is talking about, attacking the kidneys, and again, the kidneys is where our original life force is stored from our parents, that we inherit from our parents in QiGong. And, if you wanted to get somebody to be chronically ill, you would most definitely attack the kidneys. And now the other big issue that I hope we don't see is what we saw in China when people were first coming back to Wuhan after like leaving, or vice versa. There was people like in mass beating on them. And here you see Ukraine protesters attack buses carrying China evacuees. That's not good. So obviously people don't want people coming into their home area that have the virus. And let's hope we don't see any violence like that. But many, as you see here, many residents fear the virus could spread through the town, which has a population of 10,000. So their Ukrainian president was urging people to show solidarity. Remember, we're all human. And earlier on Thursday, 45 Ukrainians, 27 foreign nationals were flown from Wuhan in China to Kharkiv in eastern Ukraine. 6 buses then drove them to a hospital in Novi Sanzuri, where they were met by demonstrators lighting bonfires and hurling stones. So they don't want them coming in. The country's health ministry said none of the passengers were sick. Yet most definitely they let themselves be known that they don't want the people coming back in. And over here we see what's spreading faster than the coronavirus in the U.S.? Well, racist assaults and ignorant attacks against Asians. We did see that in New York as well. And then you had in the LA subway, a man proclaims Chinese people are filthy and says every disease that has ever been come from China. So, I mean, stupid comments, horrible, stupid comments. And just showing ignorance and intolerance.
You know, and that's terrible. I wish people would not do that. You know, I just thought that sometimes I really wish that we were old enough souls as a collective for this stuff to fade out. You know, I mean, when in doubt, be kind. That's like the best advice I've ever gotten. And, you know, I've used it over and over, and it never lets me down. So this is just such a terrible thing that's happening to these people. It makes me really sad to see that it's still ongoing. But maybe also as a collective, you know, this is one of those things that we could meditate on and try to get this to fade out of, you know, general population. So maybe people can smarten up and stop doing this.
Yeah, and these times we need to come together instead of pick on each other, that's for sure. And so this is The Scientist, and this is just yet another scientific-based article talking about the lab-made coronavirus. You know, we know it is. I think that's something that we're not even really debating now, and it's really just a question of what's the purpose and who started it, who let it out on us, you know. And, you know, so a lot of people, I'm looking at you guys talking about in the comments, a lot of people do have back pain. And, of course, there's been a ton of flu and things along those lines.
Yeah, you know, I like the idea of anything that might be hurting, anything that might be making you feel uncomfortable, just surround that in white light. Don't give it a name. Don't label it. Don't give it power. Just start working on energy work on yourself. That's what I would do.
Most definitely. And let's send our prayers for everybody that's struggling with these illnesses right now. And please do feel free, as we were doing before. If you want a prayer request or have the family send energy and prayers, just send into evolutionaryenergyarts at Gmail a photo and a name, and just let us know, and then we'll put it up. And we could do that on a regular basis as well, you know, and we will start to put together some more prayer request, dedicated lives and things like that again, because we have a lot of power together. It's amazing, again, what we can do. And thank you, Henry, for your support there too. That was just weird. I just had to go take a look because, you know, Cindy doesn't have hearing in one ear, you know, so she doesn't always hear things, but I heard what sounded like something banging on the door, you know, so I just went to check if the door wasn't locked, you know, but we locked it. And there's nothing there, but it was weird. It definitely sounded like something banging on the door. So yeah, times are weird, times are tough, but this is going to be something that's going to hopefully be something that pulls us together, and we recognize the power that we have together, and especially, as far as unified prayer, unified positive intentions, it could do amazing things, like the one lady I was telling you about, the girl that was put into a medical coma. And, thank you guys again for that, because, hey, she came out of it just fine. And she was put in it because she wouldn't stop seizuring. And that stopped, And was that you guys? It might well be. It very well might be, So that's a beautiful thing. Yes, Chris, Zane, you remember, brother. So, thank you guys for that. And again, we're sending love and prayers to everybody that's suffering right now through these illnesses.
Yeah, it does matter. More often than not, when I've sent people or animals energy, because I work on both, there's been improvement. And I've seen that enough times to know that I know there's something there. And I do believe with this group as a collective, when we do send it out as a collective, it's a million times more powerful. So, and we can use that with everything that's going on right now. We can use that against lower vibrations. We can use that to help lift ourselves up. And things might get a little bit tough, and we're going to need to know how to pull ourselves up.
So I want to thank you guys for joining us again, and we will talk to you guys tomorrow. Stay prepared, take your preps to all new levels, keep positive, and we'll keep preparing for whatever comes. God bless, my friends, and namaste.
Namaste.